A kilt is not a skirt. The distinction matters. A skirt is designed as a lower body garment with no fixed structure. A kilt is a precisely constructed piece of heavyweight wool, pleated at the back, flat at the front, wrapped and fastened with a buckled apron. It sits at the natural waist, not the hips. The fabric is dense enough to hold its shape in wind and rain, and a full kilt uses between 6 and 8 yards of cloth. It is closer in engineering to tailored trousers than to anything in women's clothing. Those distinctive patterns woven into the fabric are called tartans, and each one is specific. Historically, tartans became associated with specific Scottish clans, family groups that controlled particular territories across the Highlands. Wearing your clan's tartan was a declaration of who you were and where you came from. The kilt is rarely worn alone. The traditional outfit pairs it with a sporran, a small pouch worn at the front of the waist, serving as a pocket, since the kilt itself has none. Above that, a fitted jacket, typically in tweed or military cut. On the right leg, a small single-edged knife is tucked into the top of the kilt hose, and at last there are thick woolen socks, folded down below the knee. The full formal outfit is one of the most structured national dress traditions in the world. The kilt's origins are not where most people assume. The garment that eventually became the modern kilt began in the 16th century as something called the belted plaid, or the great wrap. It was an enormous length of cloth roughly 5 meters long that a Highland man would lay flat on the ground, lie down on top of and belt around his waist. The lower half hung as a skirt. The upper half could be draped over the shoulder, pulled over the head in rain, or wrapped around the body for warmth at night. It was practical Highland clothing for men living and working in cold, wet, mountainous terrain. Not ceremonial, not symbolic, just functional. The smaller, lower body-only version, the little wrap, emerged in the early 18th century and is the direct ancestor of the modern kilt. The credit for its invention is often given to an English ironmaster named Thomas Rawlinson, who around 1720 reportedly found the full belted plaid too cumbersome for his Highland workers and had the upper portion removed to create a more practical garment. Then, in 1746, the British government passed the Dress Act after the Jacobite uprising, a failed rebellion in which many Scottish Highland clans supported the Stuart family's attempt to reclaim the British throne. In response, the British Crown tried to weaken Highland clan identity and stop future uprisings by banning traditional Highland clothing. The law prohibited Highland men from wearing tartan, kilts, belted plaids, and other forms of Highland dress. A first offence could result in 6 months in prison, while a second offence carried a punishment of 7 years of transportation to a penal colony. The ban stayed in effect for 36 years. What the ban produced was the opposite of what it intended. Suppressing the kilt didn't erase it, it transformed it into a symbol of Scottish identity and resistance. When the Dress Act was finally repealed in 1782, the kilt came back not simply as clothing but as a cultural statement. That transformation accelerated dramatically in 1822 when King George IV made a state visit to Edinburgh, the first visit by a British monarch to Scotland in nearly 2 centuries. The visit was orchestrated by the novelist Sir Walter Scott, who encouraged the king to wear Highland dress and invited Scottish clan chiefs to appear in their tartans. George IV complied, appearing in a pink kilt to great fanfare. What had been rural Highland working clothes was reframed overnight as the proud national dress of Scotland. Today, kilts appear most often at weddings, formal events, Highland games and national celebrations, worn by Scots and people of Scottish descent around the world. And as for the popular belief that Scots wear nothing underneath, that part is actually rooted in real history. The practice is known as going regimental, a term that traces back to the Highland soldiers in the British military who wore no undergarments beneath their kilts for ease of movement in the field. Most modern kilt wearers, however, wear whatever they choose underneath, either with or without underwear. Click the video on your screen right now and I'll explain another everyday mystery you've wondered about your whole life but never thought to look up.